The first thing I heard when I walked into the house was my wife moaning. It came from the living room speakers, soft, breathy sounds echoing through the hall, like a scene from a movie I hadn't pressed play on. I froze, golf bag still slung over my shoulder. The door clicked shut behind me and the sound cut deeper. Then came the whisper. Oh God, you're so much better than him. I stood there, heart suddenly too loud in my chest, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. The voice was unmistakable. Stella, my wife. The woman I married 5 years ago who kissed me goodbye this morning, before I left for my early tea time like everything was fine. I dropped the bag. Slowly, I walked toward the living room. The speakers were still on. My smartwatch must have synced automatically with the home system when I got within range. Bluetooth. I'd forgotten to unpair it after the last update. I didn't need to guess what was happening. I could hear it. Every word, every sound. Her voice, breathy and low, dripping with lust. I only married him for his money. You're the one I truly want. My name is Dwayne. I'm 38. I built a tech company from my garage and sold it for 8 figures before I turned 35. People call me lucky. I call it obsession. I built everything I have with my own hands. The lakefront mansion, the cars, the private chef, and yes, the beautiful wife I thought loved me. I took one step back, then another. I didn't storm in, didn't yell, didn't throw anything. I just backed away. The hallway mirror caught my reflection as I turned, but it also caught theirs. From the angle, I could see into the bedroom at the end of the corridor. The door was open just enough. Stella was on top of someone, her head thrown back in a way I hadn't seen in months. She laughed. He laughed too, and then, I swear, he's so clueless. He still thinks I'm planning that charity gala because I care. The man underneath her? Ben, our accountant. The guy I trusted with our finances. The guy I invited to our wedding. I recognized the tattoo on his shoulder, a compass. I once asked him what it meant. Guiding me through life, he'd said. Apparently, it led him straight into my bed. I didn't move, I didn't breathe, I just watched like I was outside my own body. They didn't even notice me. Not in the mirror, not in the hallway, not anywhere. I was invisible in my own home. They laughed again. I heard the bed creak, heard her say, just a little longer. He's almost past the prenup deadline. That's when something inside me shifted. I turned and walked out of the house. Quiet, controlled, like I was walking away from a meeting that had gone exactly as expected. Outside, the sun was still shining. The lake sparkled like it always did. My neighbor waved from across the street. I waved back. I sat in my car and stared at the steering wheel for a full minute. Then I opened my phone and pulled up the security app. The house had built-in audio logs. The Bluetooth system recorded everything when synced. I hit save clip and watched the file upload to my private cloud. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even curse. Instead, I whispered, okay. I pulled out of the driveway, calm as ever. I had a meeting downtown in 2 hours. I'd make it. I'd smile, I'd shake hands and talk numbers. But everything had changed. She thought I was clueless. She thought I'd never find out. She thought wrong. The next morning, I made her coffee. Hazelnut? I asked, holding up the creamer. She looked up from her phone at the kitchen island, hair still damp from her shower. You're sweet. Yes, please. I poured it, stirred, and slid the mug toward her. She smiled, reached over, and kissed my cheek. Everything okay? She asked. Great, I said, smiling back. Just tired. She nodded. You've been working too much again. I watched her take a sip. She didn't flinch. She didn't know I'd heard everything, that I'd seen everything. She was good. Too good. I left the house by 9, drove to the office, and called Emery the second I parked. Can you meet me in my office? Quietly. She was there in 15 minutes, notebook in hand, eyes sharp like always. I need you to pull some files, I said, flipping open my laptop. Everything Ben's touched in the last 6 months, contracts, transfers, expense reports, I want it all. Emery didn't blink. You think he's been skimming? I looked at her. I think he's been doing a lot more than that. She gave a slow nod. Got it. I'll be discreet. By noon, I was knee-deep in spreadsheets. Numbers I'd never questioned before suddenly looked off. Tiny amounts here and there. Consulting fees, travel reimbursements, adjusted invoices. Nothing big enough to raise alarms. But together? Suspicious. I clicked through an account labeled Investment Research. $3,200 went to a hotel in the city. I checked the dates. One matched the night Stella had told me she was going to a spa weekend with her friends. I opened my photo app and scrolled back to that weekend. Our anniversary. I'd taken her out for dinner the night before. She said she needed girl time after. I remembered thinking it was fair. I even told her to relax, enjoy herself. I stared at a photo she'd sent me from that night. Her and Samantha holding champagne glasses and robes. I zoomed in. The background wasn't a spa. It was a hotel suite, and not the kind with massage tables. Emery, I said through the intercom, can you check if Stella's phone was synced to the house GPS last month? Sure. You want a specific day? April 14th. She came back 10 minutes later. Her phone pinged at the Four Seasons, twice, afternoon and late night. I nodded. Thanks. That night, Stella came home with takeout and a bottle of wine. Felt like spoiling you, she said, setting the bag on the table. You've been so sweet lately. I opened the wine, poured us both a glass. Appreciate it. She leaned in and kissed me. You okay? You've been quiet. Just work stuff, I said, sipping. Ben's been asking about the company's growth plan again. He's really pushing for that expansion contract. She rolled her eyes. He's so obsessed with numbers. Yeah, I said. Weird, right? She laughed. He means well. I watched her take a bite of noodles, humming like she didn't have a care in the world. Like she wasn't sleeping with the man we were talking about. After dinner, I went to the study and pulled out the prenup. I hadn't looked at it since we signed it. I remembered her crying during the meeting, saying she understood, that she'd never care about the money. I'd believed her. I flipped to the clause I remembered vaguely, the 5-year maturation. If we divorced before that, she'd get a small settlement. After that, it bumped up significantly. We were 2 months away. I checked the last page. Only 2 people had access to this document, me and my lawyer. Not even Stella had a copy. Then why had Ben been asking about the date? I grabbed my phone and opened our shared calendar. She'd marked an event on the exact day the prenup matured. Just a heart emoji. No title, no location. I stared at it for a long time. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen and found her humming, flipping pancakes. Morning, babe, she said. Big day? Yeah, I replied. Might be the start of something new. Maureen, I need 20 minutes. No assistants, no interns, just you and me. She looked up from her laptop, raised an eyebrow, and shut the lid. That serious? I nodded. Worse. We were in her private office, glass walls frosted for privacy. She gestured for me to sit, then leaned forward, elbows on the desk. Talk. I pulled out a flash drive and slid it across. Start with the folder marked Audio, then open the one called Office Cam. She plugged it in. The room went silent except for the faint sound of breathing coming from her speakers. Then moaning. Then Stella's voice. Maureen didn't flinch, just stared at the screen like she was watching a deposition. When the second video started, grainy footage from my office's security cam showing Stella and Ben all over each other on my leather couch. She paused it halfway through and looked at me. Jesus. Yeah, she leaned back. You want to go nuclear? I want to go silent, precise, legal. Maureen nodded slowly. You came to the right person. I pulled out a manila folder. Here's what I've found so far. Bank transfers, GPS logs, texts. Emery's been helping me dig quietly. I need you to start moving assets. Carefully. I don't want her noticing anything until it's too late. She flipped through the papers, whistling low. Ben's been sloppy. These reimbursements are garbage. He's definitely funneling money. And he's asking about the prenup date. Her eyes snapped up. How the hell does he even know about that? Exactly. She tapped the folder. All right, I'll set up a holding company. You'll start moving your shares through a trust. We'll do it in phases so it doesn't raise flags. I'll handle the legal side. You handle your poker face. I nodded. Already started. Later that day, I met Emery in the parking garage. She handed me a coffee and a small envelope. Private investigators info. Name's Solomon. Ex-cyber intel. Discreet. Expensive. Worth it. Thanks. She looked at me for a second. You okay? Not yet. That night, Stella curled up next to me on the couch. You've been so sweet lately. It's nice. I smiled, trying to be more present. She kissed my neck. I was thinking we could do a weekend getaway soon. Just us. Sounds perfect. She ran her fingers through my hair. Also, Ben asked if we could renew his contract. He's been so helpful. I kept my voice steady. Sure. Let's talk about it next week. She beamed. You're the best. The next morning, I met Solomon at a diner just outside the city. He was in his 50s, clean-cut, military posture. You're Dwayne? He asked, sliding into the booth. Yeah. He nodded once. Show me what you've got. I handed him a second flash drive. I want full surveillance, phone taps, GPS, texts, emails, anything you can get without breaking the law. He gave a thin smile. You'd be surprised what's legal if you know where to look. I leaned in. I want to know if they're planning something. I want proof. You'll have it. 3 days later, I was in the middle of a meeting when my phone buzzed. A text from Solomon. You're going to want to see this video. I waited until I was alone in my office. Closed the blinds, locked the door. I opened the file. It was my office again. Different day, different angle. This time the camera caught everything. Stella straddling Ben, laughing, whispering something in his ear. He kissed her neck. She moaned my name mockingly. I paused the video, hands clenched. Then I hit play again. At the end, she looked straight into the camera, not realizing it was there, and said, He's too busy to notice anything. He's always working. We'll be gone before he even figures it out. I closed the laptop, sat still for a long minute. Then I picked up the phone and called Maureen. It's time, I said. Start the transfer. Everything's in motion, Maureen said, sliding a folder across the table. The trust is live. The holding company is registered. Your shares are protected. We were sitting in a quiet corner of her firm's private conference room, away from prying eyes. She tapped the folder. We've moved the lake house, the penthouse, and the investment accounts, all under your sole control. And the prenup? I asked. She smiled faintly. Ironclad. If she's found cheating before the 5-year mark, she walks with nothing, not a cent. I leaned back in the chair, exhaling slowly. 2 months to go, she almost made it. Maureen raised an eyebrow. Almost. That afternoon, Emery walked into my office holding a manila envelope. She didn't say anything, just placed it on my desk and nodded. I opened it. Inside were phone records, GPS logs, and a printed screenshot of a text message Stella sent to Ben 2 nights ago. Just 2 more months. Divorce and settlement, then we disappear. He's got no prenup clause that can stop it. I stared at the words, my jaw tightening. Emery sat down across from me. She's planning the exit. She thinks I'm blind. She thinks you're in love. I looked at her. I was. She didn't say anything, just gave me a look that said, I know. I picked up my phone and called Stella. Hey, babe, she answered, all sugar. Miss me already? Always, I said. Listen, I was thinking, let's do that trip you mentioned, just us, somewhere quiet. She gasped. Really? You're not too busy? I'll make time. She laughed. You're spoiling me lately. Only the best for my girl. That night, I sat alone in the study, staring at a framed photo from our anniversary, the one where she wore that red dress and kissed me in front of everyone. I'd thought she looked at me with love in her eyes. Now I knew it was calculation. I picked up the phone and called my father. We hadn't spoken in years. Hello. His voice was rough, older than I remembered. It's me, I said. A long pause. Dwayne? Yeah. Another pause. Didn't expect this. I know. You okay? No, I said. But I'm getting there. He cleared his throat. She hurt you? I didn't answer. I warned you, he said after a moment. Told you not to trust someone who only shows up after the money? You were right. He didn't gloat, Just said, "So what now?" "I burn it down," I said. The next morning, I met Solomon at a warehouse we'd rented under a shell company. Inside were boxes of documents, duplicate hard drives, and a whiteboard covered in timelines. "She's sloppy with her texts," Solomon said, pointing to a printed thread. "They're planning to move to Costa Rica. Ben's looking into offshore accounts." I scanned the messages. Stella had even sent him a photo of a beachfront villa. She captioned it, "Our new beginning." I clenched the paper in my hand. She was never going to tell me. "Nope," Solomon said. "She was going to vanish, take whatever settlement she could get and run." I looked at him. "You get anything else on Ben?" He smirked. "Oh yeah, you're gonna love this." He handed me a file. Inside were photos of Ben with another woman, pregnant, holding hands, smiling in front of a modest home in Oregon. Her name's Tessa, his wife, due in 6 weeks. I blinked. He's married? Legally, still is. I stared at the photo. He's playing both of us. Looks like it. I grabbed a flash drive from the table and copied everything. His texts with Stella, the hotel receipts, the office video, the prenup clause, the works. Then I wrote one line on a sticky note and stuck it to the drive. "Your husband's books and lies." The next morning I mailed it to Tessa. No return address. Just the truth. By lunch, I was back at the office watching Stella laugh over brunch on her Instagram story. She tagged Samantha and wrote, "Girls who slay together, stay together." I smiled to myself. She had no idea. The game had already started. I invited them both to dinner, Ben and Stella. "Just the three of us," I said casually one morning as she buttoned her blouse. "I figured we could talk about the new contract. You've been saying Ben deserves a raise." She paused, then smiled. "That's thoughtful." "Yeah," I said, pouring coffee. "He's done a lot for us." She kissed my cheek. "You're being so generous lately." I smiled back. "Only the best for the people I trust." That night, I reserved a private room at a high-end steakhouse. Candlelight, jazz in the background, a bottle of wine already breathing on the table. Stella showed up in a black dress I'd bought her last year. Ben came in with that fake, humble grin he always wore when he was trying to charm. "Wow," he said, looking around. "This is fancy." "Figured we'd celebrate," I said, shaking his hand. "You've helped streamline a lot of the company's back end. I appreciate it." He chuckled. "Just doing my job." We sat. Stella reached for the wine. "To new beginnings?" I raised my glass. "To trust." They clinked. I didn't. Dinner was smooth. I kept the conversation light. Asked Ben about his thoughts on growth strategies. Let Stella chime in with her usual fake interest. Then I dropped it. "I've been thinking about expanding the financial oversight team," I said, cutting into my steak. "Maybe bring in a third-party auditor, just to tighten things up." Ben's fork paused midair. "Oh?" "Yeah," I said. "Not that I don't trust you, it's just smart business." Stella jumped in. "Is that really necessary? I mean, Ben's been with us for years." I smiled. "Exactly, which is why he should have no problem with transparency." Ben forced a laugh. "Of course, whatever makes you comfortable." I nodded. "Great, I'll have Emery set it up." We finished dinner. I paid. They left together. Separately, of course, but I knew where they'd end up. The next morning, I started planting traps. I created a dummy document, a fake acquisition deal with a made-up tech firm. I left it accidentally open on my home office desktop. 2 days later, I overheard Stella on the phone in the kitchen. "He's planning something big. I'll get the details tonight." She didn't know I was in the hallway. I made another file. A fake budget report showing a $2 million deficit. Slid it into our shared Dropbox. Ben brought it up in a text to Stella the next day. "He's bleeding cash. We might need to move sooner." Hook, line, sinker. That Friday, I threw a dinner party. Just a few close friends, some business partners, and of course, Stella. She wore diamonds I'd bought her last Christmas, smiling like the queen of the room. I raised a toast halfway through the night. "To the woman who makes everything look effortless," I said, lifting my glass toward her. "You've been my anchor." She blushed. "You're making me cry." "Cheers," I said. Everyone drank. She leaned in later, tipsy, whispering, "You've been so good to me lately." "I just want us to be happy," I whispered back. The next morning, Solomon called. "You sitting down?" "Go." Ben's wife opened the package. She filed for separation. "He doesn't know yet. She's freezing the accounts?" I let out a slow breath. Good. Also, he's panicking. He just tried to wire $80,000 to a bank in Panama. It got flagged. Let it burn. That afternoon, I walked into the garage and opened the storage cabinet. Inside was a thick envelope, divorce papers, asset transfer forms, screenshots, GPS logs, text messages. All printed, labeled, and ready. I slipped in one last thing, a handwritten note. "Enjoy your true love. In debt." Emery walked in behind me. "You sure you want to do it this way?" she asked. I closed the envelope. She wanted a show. I'll give her one. Then I handed her the keys. "Get the movers ready. Midnight." "Spa weekend," Stella said, tossing her overnight bag into the back seat. Finally, I need this. I stood by the car, arms crossed. "You sure you don't want me to book you a massage while you're there?" She laughed. "No need. Samantha already lined everything up. Mud baths, facials, the works." I smiled. "Have fun." She kissed me on the cheek. "You're so sweet lately. I almost don't recognize you." I opened the car door for her. Maybe I'm just finally seeing things clearly. She didn't catch it, just grinned, slid into the seat, and waved as the driver pulled away. I waited until the car turned the corner before pulling out my phone. "Go," I said. Emery's voice crackled through the Bluetooth. "Movers are staged 2 blocks away, trucks unmarked. They'll be in and out in 3 hours. Start with the art, then the safes. Strip it all." I walked back inside the house. The silence was louder than usual. I stood in the foyer and looked around. The marble floors, the custom light fixtures, the ridiculous $12,000 chandelier she insisted on. It all felt fake now, like a movie set after the credits roll. By midnight, the house was a hive of quiet movement. Men in black shirts and gloves moved through every room with precision. Paintings came off walls. Jewelry cases were emptied. The wine cellar was cleared out bottle by bottle. In the garage, the Ferrari and the Range Rover were loaded onto flatbeds. The only car left behind was the beat-up sedan I'd bought off Craigslist last week. I parked it front and center in the driveway. Emery handed me a clipboard. "Final inventory. Everything's accounted for." I signed it. "The new storage?" "Secured under the trust. Access codes changed. Only you and Maureen have the keys." I nodded. "Good." She hesitated. "You want to leave anything?" I looked around the now bare living room. The expensive rug was gone. The designer couch replaced with a cheap leather knockoff. The fake flowers were still in the vase. I left them. "No," I said. "She doesn't get to keep a single thing she didn't earn." At 3 a.m., I stood in the kitchen and taped the envelope to the glass door. Inside were the divorce papers, the screenshots, the prenup clause, and a copy of the trust transfer. On top was my note. "Enjoy your true love. In debt." I turned off the lights and walked outside. Emery locked the door behind me. "You sure you don't want to be here when she sees it?" she asked. I shook my head. "I've already seen enough." The next morning, I sat in a downtown cafe, sipping black coffee when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Samantha. "Did your lawyer call you back? They said you've been served?" I smiled. Then another one came in. A missed call from Stella, then another, then 4 more. I let them ring. At 8:42 a.m., she finally left a voicemail. "Dwayne, what the hell is going on? The house is empty. My card got declined at the cafe. I don't understand. Call me back, please." I didn't. Instead, I checked the bank app. Every joint account closed. Every credit card in her name canceled. The trust was active, airtight, and fully separated. Solomon texted me next. "Ben's phone is disconnected. He's off the grid. His wife filed charges, embezzlement, and fraud." I forwarded the message to Maureen. She replied instantly. "Perfect timing. Divorce package was filed at 7:01 a.m. She's officially served." I leaned back in my chair, watching the city wake up around me. She thought she'd walk away with half. She thought I'd never see it coming. She thought I'd crumble. But all she got was an empty house, a mountain of debt, and a man who finally saw her for what she really was. Checkmate. Stella's scream echoed through the empty house. I heard it from the driveway as I stepped out of the car. She was back early. Her spa weekend must have ended with a declined credit card and a driver who couldn't reach me. I walked up slowly, watching her through the glass door. She was standing in the middle of the living room, spinning in circles like she was looking for something that no longer existed. Because it didn't. She yanked open the door. "Where is everything?" I stepped inside. Gone. Her eyes were wild. "What the hell is this? Where's my jewelry, my clothes, the cars?" I held up the envelope she'd torn open. "It's all right here, in writing. Divorce papers, trust transfers, financial forensics, screenshots, dates, times, GPS logs." She stared at me like I'd slapped her. This is insane. You emptied the accounts?" "No," I said, stepping past her. "I moved my money. You just never had any." She grabbed my arm. "You can't do this. We're married." I looked at her hand, then back at her. "Not anymore." She let go, breathing hard. "You're doing this because of Ben?" I laughed once. "You think this is about him?" She blinked. "This is about you," I said. "Lying to my face. Sleeping in my bed while planning your exit. Mocking me in my own house." Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean—" "You meant every word," I cut in. "I heard it. I saw it. You were going to take the settlement and disappear. You almost made it." She took a shaky step back. "You don't understand. I was scared. I didn't know if you'd... I didn't think you'd find out." I tilted my head. "That's the part that stings the most. You thought I was stupid." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I walked to the kitchen and poured a glass of water from the tap. The fancy filtered system was gone, just like the rest of it. "You're not walking away with anything," I said. "The prenup is clear. You cheated before year 5. That voids your claim." She shook her head. "You can't leave me with nothing. I gave you 5 years of my life." I set the glass down. "And I gave you everything. My trust, my money, my name. You gambled it all for a man who's now under federal investigation." Her phone buzzed on the counter. She grabbed it, saw the caller ID, and froze. "Who is it?" I asked. She didn't answer. I stepped closer. "Is it Ben? Or maybe your lawyer telling you you've been served?" She looked up at me, eyes full of panic. "He's gone. His number's disconnected. I can't reach him." I nodded slowly. "He's not just gone. He's arrested. His wife filed charges. Turns out he was stealing from more than just me." Stella stumbled back onto the couch. Well, the cheap couch I'd replaced the designer one with. It creaked under her. "This isn't happening," she whispered. I walked over and stood behind her. 5 years, that's all you had to make it. Just pretend a little longer. But you got greedy." She turned and slapped me, or tried to. I caught her wrist midair. "No," I said calmly. "That's done too." I reached into my coat and pulled out one last document. Set it in her lap. Restraining order. Filed this morning, effective immediately. "You can't be serious," she whispered. I leaned in close. Dead serious. She stared at the paper, her hands shaking. "Where am I supposed to go?" I stood up straight. "Not my problem anymore." She broke down, sobbing into her hands. The sound was raw, ugly, desperate. I walked to the door, paused, looked back one last time. "You bet your life on my love," I said, "but you forgot. I'd love systems even more." Then I walked out. And for the first time in months, I smiled. The elevator doors opened to the top floor. Emery stood waiting with 2 coffees in hand, her usual calm expression softening into something close to a smile. "Morning," she said, handing me the cup. "Thanks," I said, stepping into the new penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows, clean lines, no clutter. Just space, light, and silence. "You sleep?" she asked. "Enough." She followed me into the kitchen. "Maureen's downstairs. She brought the final docs." I nodded. "Let her up." A few minutes later, Maureen walked in holding a sleek black folder. She set it on the counter and opened it. Divorce finalized. All appeals denied. She's out. You're clear. I flipped through the papers, scanned the signatures. She tried to fight? Tried. Failed. The evidence was overwhelming. Judge didn't even hesitate. Good. Maureen looked up. You did it. Clean. Legal. Brutal. She earned it. She closed the folder. You want me to keep monitoring her? No, I said. She's not my problem anymore. Emery glanced at her phone. You might want to see this. She turned the screen toward me. A local news article. Former accountant arrested in ongoing fraud scheme. Multiple clients affected. Ben's mugshot stared back at me. Hollow eyes, no smirk this time. His wife's pressing full charges, Emery said. She's got the receipts, literally. I sipped my coffee. He'll have time to reflect. Maureen raised an eyebrow. You're not going to say anything? Publicly? No need, I said. The truth's loud enough. Later that afternoon, I walked into a small art gallery downtown. Clean walls, soft lighting. A few pieces I'd stored were already installed. The curator greeted me with a nod. Your collection's drawing attention, he said. We've had a few buyers ask about the lake house pieces. Let them go, I said. Fresh start. He handed me a card. You ever want to curate something new, you've got an eye. I left the gallery and walked 2 blocks to a quiet cafe. Ordered a sandwich, sat outside. Across the street, a woman stood at a folding table trying to sell knockoff handbags. I almost didn't recognize her. Stella. Hair pulled into a messy bun, sunglasses hiding her face. She was arguing with a customer over a price tag. I watched for a moment. Not with anger, not even with satisfaction, just clarity. She looked up and saw me. Her face froze. She didn't wave. Neither did I. I stood, tossed my sandwich in the trash, and walked away. Back at the penthouse, Emery was waiting. You okay? She asked. I nodded. Never been this clear. She handed me a small box. Found this in the last of the storage crates. I opened it. Our wedding photo? The one Stella had insisted be blown up and framed like a magazine cover. Us on the beach. Her smile wide. Mine? Unsure. I stared at it for a beat. Then walked to the balcony, lit a match, and held the photo over the flame. It curled, blackened, then crumbled into ash. I dropped it into the wind. Cheers to being underestimated, I said. Emery raised her coffee cup. To systems that never fail. I smiled. The city stretched out in front of me. Loud, alive, full of noise and motion. But inside it was quiet. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't watching my life from the outside. I was living it.